Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this because we've got a fascinating exploration today of what actually happens when our mortal world collides head-on with the gods. You know, we so often hear about the glory, the power, and the sheer magic of interacting with the divine, right? But honestly, rarely do we sit down to dissect the profound toll it actually takes on human lives. So today, we're unpacking a collection of deeply moving myths that pull back the curtain on this exact dynamic. Think of it as a triptych of tales exploring ambition, love, art, and the absolutely unimaginable weight of divine consequence.
We're treating this explainer as a curated exhibition, a mythic triptych, if you will. So, here's our game plan. First up, Tales of Mortals and Gods. Then, we'll look at Iron's eternal flame. After that, Leonthe and the Swan. Fourth, Melanion's lost divine song. And finally, we'll wrap up with the cost of the divine.
All right, Section 1, Tales of Mortals and Gods, exploring 3 unique paths to the divine. Our journey today spans 3 completely standalone stories, but they all share this powerful through line. We're looking at extraordinary mortals engaging with the foundational forces of the universe, fire, truth, and creation. And, as you're going to see, not a single one of them walks away unchanged.
Which brings us to the big question we really need to ask ourselves right from the start. What is the ultimate, true price when mortal hearts and hands brush against immortal power? Because look, the gods in these stories, they don't just hand out favors for free. Interacting with them demands a piece of your soul, your identity, or even your sanity. Let's see exactly how this transaction plays out in our very first story.
Moving on to Section 2, Iron's eternal flame, or the demigod's sacrifice. Let's look at our first case study. This is Iron, a boy born of fire and steel in the flickering forge of Myone, the son of a mortal blacksmith and the god Hephaestus.
So, picture this. Irion is a demigod born into a world where humanity is quite literally freezing to death. The gods, being gods, have sealed away the eternal flame on Mount Olympus just to punish mankind. To save the mortal world, Irion realizes there's only one option. He has to ascend the mountain and steal the flame back. But before he can even start climbing, he has to get past the base, which happens to be guarded by none other than Cerberus, yes, the multi-headed hound of Hades. To steal back the eternal flame, Irion literally had to bypass death itself. And the way he does it? It's brilliant. It shows total ingenuity over brute force. First, he forges this heavy collar out of obsidian and iron, using a single final ember from his mother's forge. Next, he carves 3 incredibly powerful words into it: memory, loyalty, and grief. Finally, he stands before this terrifying beast, kneels down, offers the collar, and softly hums a childhood lullaby his mother taught him. And guess what? Cerberus simply goes to sleep. Irion touched death, and death literally stepped aside.
It's amazing when we track Irion's steady, entirely selfless ascent. I mean, he's only 16 years old. He's already a master blacksmith, spending 3 grueling days and nights forging that collar. By the 4th day, he enters the underworld and peacefully bypasses death. He pushes through warnings from an oracle and even survives a painful encounter with Hermes, who actually curses him, twisting this literal thread of pain right into his chest. But still, Irion climbs. When he finally reaches this windless, totally silent clearing at the summit, there it is, the pure, blinding white eternal flame. But in that final moment, he realizes something heartbreaking. The only way to bring it to humanity isn't to just carry it down in a torch. He has to absorb it. He falls to his knees, his bones cracking and reforming, his skin glowing. He makes the ultimate sacrifice. He doesn't just hold the flame, he becomes it. He wanders the earth to reignite humanity's hearts until his physical body is entirely, completely consumed into warmth itself.
Okay, Section 3, Leonthe and the Swan, the Spartan's tragedy. Here, we pivot from a tale of noble sacrifice to one of completely unintended tragedy. We're looking at Leonthe, a fierce female Spartan commander who was born during a blood-red eclipse.
Leonthe is fascinating. By age 12, she was already besting her brothers in wrestling. By 16, she was leading actual hunting parties. But the absolute crucial point here is this extreme dual life she led. By day, she was a rigid, highly respected commander of men who measured her worth entirely in battle scars. But by night, she kept a massive secret. Every full moon, she would strip away her heavy armor, wander into a hidden lake grove, and become totally vulnerable. And in this grove, she finds this impossibly beautiful, unnaturally warm swan. Over the months, they form this profound, entirely silent bond. She talks to the swan about her deepest fears, her longing for peace. and the swan just listens. It's crazy, but they fall in love without speaking a single word.
Well, here's the twist. The swan was actually Apollo, the god of light and music. Long ago, Apollo had defied Zeus by speaking truth to power, and as punishment, Zeus trapped him in the form of a swan. And the absolute cruelest part of this curse? If any mortal ever discovered Apollo's true identity, the transformation would instantly become permanent. Meanwhile, back in Sparta, people are getting suspicious about Leonetha's nighttime disappearances. Around this time, she has a terrifying prophetic dream where a statue cracks open and delivers this devastating warning: truth will freeze what love has kindled. Driven by the sheer unease of that dream, Leonthe wanders into a new, overgrown part of the grove and stumbles upon an ancient, cracked altar. Carved right into the stone is the name Apollon. The very second she reads it and connects the dots, realizing exactly who the swan is, the curse activates. Right before her eyes, the swan transforms back into the radiant god Apollo, but only for a brief, agonizing moment. They exchange just a few tragic words, and then Apollo's glowing skin just dulls. He turns completely, permanently to solid marble. Leonthe is absolutely devastated that her discovery caused this. She abandons Sparta forever. She spends the rest of her life, and ultimately dies, just sitting in silent mourning beside the stone statue of the god she loved.
Which brings us to Section 4, Milanian's lost divine song, The Bard's Hubris. Our third and final act introduces Milanian. He's a mortal bard, born during a violent storm, who apparently hummed melodies before he could even speak a single word.
His musical talent was just off the charts. It was so profound, so capable of healing broken hearts, that the 9 muses themselves actually chose him. They whisked him away to Mount Helicon and shared their ancient divine truths with him. And their only ask? They just asked that he sing these truths to comfort the weary mortal world. But as his skills grew, well, so did his ambition. Milanian retreated deep into a crystalline cave and composed an absolute reality-bending masterpiece. A song so perfect that even the fates supposedly paused their weaving just to listen to it. But here is where he commits his fatal sin: hoarding. Instead of sharing this divine gift with humanity, Milanian sealed away this sacred beauty entirely for his own ego. He actually wanted to surpass the divine, not serve it. The muses warned him. They said beauty is not meant to be buried. But he proudly declared he wouldn't see his masterpiece cheapened by mortal ears.
So where Arion gave literally everything away, Milanian selfishly kept everything for himself. And the god's punishment? It wasn't fire or lightning or wrath, it was memory. First came the dream phase. He was cursed to hear that perfect song in his sleep, every single night. It was right there. But the absolute second he woke up, complete waking amnesia would set in. He couldn't remember a single note. This cruel cycle drove him into a profound, terrifying descent into madness. He destroyed his own instruments, wandered the streets as a hollow beggar, literally screaming for fragments of the melody. It wasn't until his final surrender, dying peacefully on a cliffside, finally realizing he was just a vessel, a witness to the music and not its owner, that his soul actually found release. All right, moving to our final segment, Section 5, The Cost of the Divine. Fire, stone, and silence. We've traversed 3 entirely different mortal lives today, right? A blacksmith, a Spartan warrior, and a master bard. Let's step back for a second and look at how these 3 compelling narratives intertwine to directly answer our original question regarding the heavy, heavy cost of the divine.
Distilling these myths down to their absolute essence reveals the sheer gravity of interacting with the gods. Orion achieved a deeply noble victory, but it cost him his physical humanity. He literally had to become fire to save everyone else. Leonthea found pure, unconditional love, but discovering the divine truth turned that love to stone, resulting in permanent, tragic collateral damage. And Milanian? He touched the absolute pinnacle of divine creation, but his hubris and his ego reduced him to an eternity of frantic silence. The takeaway here is clear. There are absolutely no free gifts from Olympus.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We've seen the difficult paths of sacrifice, tragic love, and ruinous pride. So I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought to really chew on. If the heavens parted today, and the gods offered you a literal spark of the divine, a chance to touch eternity, which path would you choose? And knowing what you know now about the true cost, what price would you actually be willing to pay?